Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today's video features the STAMPtember exclusive set from Honey Bee Stamps. If you don't know what STAMPtember is, don't worry, we're going to get into that. So this set is adorable little snow scene. It's got a little snowman, some trees, a sled, a bench. It's super cute. We are going to be creating a mini scene for our card, but you may notice something different about this video. And that is, it's in real time. I didn't speed it up at all. So normally my cards are super involved and take a lot of coloring and very time consuming. And so I don't have the opportunity to do this, but a lot of you over the years have asked for it. So with this particular card, because everything was kind of super streamlined and relatively simple, I was able to do that. So I didn't speed any of it up. I did, however, cut parts of it out, like the time it takes me to switch markers or the time it takes me to do all the little dots at the end. Like I only showed a portion of that because we don't need to watch me do 800 dots in real time. So yeah, basically I love making scene cards. You guys know this, and mini scenes is something that you can do to kind of like dip your toe in the water. So it's not like some huge, big, elaborate scene, but you know, maybe try it out and see if it's something that you like. Here I I stamped and masked my snowman, and you may have noticed that I did not stamp him. Like that's just the mask. And the reason that I'm doing that is because when you're creating anything that's one layer, like I am here, I need to get the placement right for the hat and the scarf. So I'm using my mask as a placeholder to line up those images. Then I'll remove the mask, I'll stamp them down, I will mask those images, and then I will finally stamp my snowman. So if you don't know what STAMPtember is a celebration, I guess, that's put on by Simon Says Stamp, that lasts all month long. They do their own release, and everything in that release, the STAMPtember release, will be available. They will restock it. They will keep producing it. Anything that is part of the collaboration sets, i.e. this set is part of a collaboration between Honey Bee and Simon Says Stamp, will not be replaced. So these things drop at midnight. That's when they're in the store to be purchased. And then once they're sold out, they're sold out. There typically is a stamp set and then a stamp set and die bundle that you can purchase to get them both. And then the nice thing, this year, this is different. The nice thing about this year is normally you have to, like in the past years, there's been no idea of who is participating or who is, going to be involved or anything else. But this year, there's actually a collaboration category. So you can go in and kind of see who is participating in doing the sets. And that way you're like, okay, these are the days I got to pay attention to. These companies maybe aren't my style. And so I have linked both the release that will replenish and the collaboration sets for your perusal below if you would like to check those out. There was a few other things I want to say about STAMPtember, but you guys know how this rolls. We're going to go back and forth between the card. So at this point, I've stamped my hat and my scarf. I'm going to go ahead and then stamp my little snowman. And I don't know. I think it's just because this week has been just crazy. For me, I've been trying to fit a lot in a very short period of time. So I put those masks back in place. I'm going to then stamp my trees in the background. I stamped the bigger one on the left-hand side that will require no masking. The littler tree, the little baby tree, which is adorable, on the right-hand side, I will mask so that I can stamp a third tree behind it. And then we'll move into just a little bit of ink blending. So you may notice that as I'm stamping, this is not centered and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, but I wasn't trying for that. The reason that it doesn't matter is because I'm going to be trimming this down. I already knew that for my little mini scene. I knew I was going to trim it to a smaller size and then kind of pop it up over a separate background. That was the idea that I had in my mind. Here, there is a hill included in the set, but I didn't want to take the time to stamp it, so I'm just freehanding a little hill for my masking of the ground. When you're doing snow, obviously your lightest part of it is going to be white, and in order to make that happen, you have to do a little bit of ink blending behind it. You guys know that I am imperfect, and so when I was stamping the sentiment, which by the way, this script is totally beautiful, when I was stamping my sentiment, my paper moved just a little bit. And so I did have like a little bit of, I guess, double stamping. Not anything that was too noticeable. It was just a little separate. And so I just went in there and fixed it with a pen. Those things are just invaluable in my craft room because I fix so many things with them. I do use an EK Success note journaling pen. That's what they are, the EK Success journaling pens, but they don't really offer them anymore. I'm just using up what I have left in my stash. A good alternative is Micron, and once I run out of these, that's what I'll go back to. So here I am just trimming this down, doing very minimal maths. So for the 3 sides, I just eyeballed it, and then in order to make sure that it was kind of going to be centered on my card, I am trying to pay attention to how short this one is and then trim the other side. So this one I think is about 1.5 inches shorter than a A2 size card. And so I couldn't get it exactly the same way because it would have cut off my snowman. So this one I think is 1.25 inches shorter. So ultimately it ended up being 2 3/4 wide and I think 4 inches long, I think is what I ended up going with. Yeah, I think that's right. 4. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Math's hard. So anyway, let's talk about STAMPtember a little bit. So I know it's very popular and it's been around for a super long time. And so you're probably really familiar with it. I would just encourage you to shop the designers' affiliate links to support them. STAMPtember, I used to work for Simon. It's been 5 years. And so I know STAMPtember is just so much work. I mean, these designers are hustling because there's a new stamp set that's dropping almost every night. And so there has to be cards made for those, to show and to market and to advertise. And so those designers they are just, you guys, they are hustling so hard. If you don't know how affiliate links work, we've talked about it briefly before, but basically the designer who has an affiliate link, as I do for a lot of the companies that I work for, they get a percentage of the sale. So if you were inspired by their card and you have driven the traffic to them, then they get a percentage of the sale, and the percentage is determined by the company. And so it can be all different. But if you're sending them there and you click on their link, then they get credit for that sale. And it doesn't cost you any extra. The 10% or 15% or whatever it is comes out of the store's end, not yours. So it does not cost you any extra to do that. So I would really just encourage you to support the designers who are creating for this. Not necessarily me. I don't participate like I used to. I mean, you're welcome to shop my link. I'm never going to turn you down for supporting my channel. But there's going to be other designers that are going to be just card after card after card after card. And I know that it's really kind of easy to just, be waiting on the Simon website at 11:58 waiting for the next stamp set to drop. But in order to get there, if you could just click on a designer's link and show them some love and support, that would just mean the world to them, because they are working so hard to get that done. So yeah, that's my PSA on that, being somebody who has done it in the past. Here, I've just picked a couple of greens, nothing too crazy to put my trees in. This is real-time Copic coloring. I know you guys usually see it sped up and sometimes really, really sped up. Typically when I'm editing my videos, I start at ×2. And then other areas I do have to speed up quite a bit. But this is what this looks like in real life. Me just going at my own pace and filling in those colors. And I think it might give you a little bit more perspective on how long it does take to color a card, but also give yourself a little bit of grace on how long it takes you to color a card. Because when you're watching it on YouTube, or especially like the reels, my reels, when I do them on Instagram or the shorts here on YouTube, those are ×8. They are 8 times as fast because and I cut so much out because I have to. One thing to note here, I cut all those masks and then I forgot to leave them in place when I was doing my ink blending. Ultimately, it's not going to matter because I'm going to add shading to my snowman, so you won't even see it. But there is a wavy line that cuts right across his little middle. Speaking of his little middle, I chose to add, I like snow that has a little bit of color, and shaded lilac is typically my go-to. And so that's what I did the background with. Like I said earlier, in order for that snow to appear white, you have to add shading behind it. So whether you're doing that with markers or pencils or ink blending like I did, that's how you're going to create your snowy hills or banks, is by adding the color behind it. And then I used a BV marker that's very close to the shaded lilac to add my shading to the snow that's on top of the trees, and also my snowman, so he wouldn't just be like flat and gray. So I put that on as like a base coat, and then I added my grays over that. He's mostly white because he's a snowman. So you want to leave a lot of white area, and the same thing with the snow on the trees. You want to leave a lot of white. We're just really adding in the shadows. And in his case, he'll have a shadow underneath his hat. He'll have a shadow underneath his scarf. And then he'll have a shadow where I guess it's his abdomen, where his middle sits on his bottom. And then I add shading to the left and right just to make him a little bit more round, and then a little bit of shading underneath his body just to ground him. For his hat, I went with some grays because honestly, I couldn't find my black marker. My desk is a hot mess right now, in trying to get all of my things done in a shortened work week. So I went with what I had. I think it worked out okay. It was a C7 and a C5. I did leave a little bit of a highlight on his brim and then in the center. For his nose, I'm not doing any extra shading at all. I'm just filling it in orange. It's such a teeny tiny area. I didn't really feel like it needed it. And then I chose some truer reds, purple reds, for his hat band and his scarf. This can get a little scary because, you're doing the red right next to the white. But as long as you do the shading of your snowman first, you don't want to do it after you put the red down, because there's a chance that you're going to pull that red. Like if your marker bumps the red scarf, there's a chance you can pull it into your white snowman, and you don't want that. So make sure you do your lighter colors first, in this case, the white, or gray, I guess, because we're adding shadows. So once I've got the shading added there, I'll just go all the way back out to my lightest color. This, like I said, was super simple and easy. It's a really good way to kind of dip your toe in the water of seeing a building and see if it's something that you enjoy. Once the coloring was complete, I did go back in and add some polka dots with a white gel pen to his scarf, just to add some more interest because it is such a simple scene. And then I'll also add a little highlight to his hat to make it look a little bit shiny. For the background, I have, this is nautical cardstock from Hero Art. Really, really like this blue, y'all. Look at how pretty that blue is. Look at it. It's so pretty. Yes, it is. And then in this set, they have some like falling snow that's included. And so I'm going to stamp this a couple of different times, imperfectly, of course. And this whole time I have my heat gun heating up. So that way when I take it to the paper, it is nice and hot and it reduces my warping. So I knew I wanted to stamp it a couple of times. When I went to move it, I actually dropped it. You're going to see here in a second. I dropped it right on there. Yes, I did. But again, I have a fix for that. Because that's pretty much making anything. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're baking, if you're card making, if in our case, sometimes we're refinishing furniture. If you are making something from scratch, you had better be prepared to be a problem solver, because something will happen every single time. So here I thought I was only going to do 2, but then I decided I wanted 3. So I did go back in with my anti-static tool. I didn't touch any of the parts that I had already stamped. I just brought it down a little bit lower to make sure I wasn't going to have any issues. And then I'm going to stamp this one last time in the clear embossing ink from Honey Bee before I go in and heat set it. I chose, this is different for me, I chose to use the white satin pearl satin, white satin pearl, one or the other, from Hero Arts, because I was very interested to see what the pearl would look like. It's very pretty, but it is not a bright white, which is fine. I had no issue with that. And I'm not sure how it would look on lighter cardstock. I will be intrigued to find that out. I have a different idea for that. And so once I started heat setting it, it did start getting like darker, which kind of surprised me because I thought it would be brighter. But in the light, when you move it, that pearl really catches the light and it's very, very pretty. So no regrets over using it, just different than what I thought it was going to be. So you'll be able to see it here in the light here shortly. And again, all real time because I didn't cut any of it out. So that's how long it took to melt it down. And then here's how I'm going to fix my little boo-boo that I talked about where I had dropped the stamp. I'm just going to go in with a white gel pen. I'm going to do a series of dots because I know I'm putting my popped up panel in the center of this card. I'm only concentrating on the edges, like the top and the edges, and then I'm just kind of letting the dots drift off toward the bottom. So this did take just a little bit of time, as I'm sure you can imagine. And so once you got the gist of it and you could see what I was doing, I went ahead and let us move on. So now that that is complete, I am going to take my popped up panel. I'm going to pop this up on some foam. This is the extra wide foam tape from Picket Fence, and it comes in a huge roll, huge. But it does give a lot of dimension, and it's much easier when I have larger panels like this than cutting a bunch of the little strips. So I am enjoying that very much. So once that was down, I knew I wanted to add some glitters. Oh, here's where I put that highlight on his hat. And then I think on the trees too, honestly. So I knew I wanted to add some glitters. That's no big shock. I love the little pearly shine on the background, but I felt like my little guy here needed some shimmers. And so I'm going to go in. I put some clear, I think this is the Nouveau clear glitter, but the Zig Wink of Stella clear also worked really well. And then I put that on the trees, his scarf, and his hat. For his body, I'm actually going to use the Zig Wink of Stella white, which is more solid. It's a white glitter. And then because I chose to use the white, which is more opaque, I went back in just over his mouth and his eyes with that same pen. I told you, invaluable tool, having a alcohol safe pen in your arsenal. And so I just went back in there and kind of brightened those up since they did get a little bit diminished. So after this, that's it. That's pretty much the whole card. So again, those things are linked below if you want to check out the collaboration sets, if you want to check out Simon's own release, if you're interested in that. And then please shop your designers' links. Your favorite designers, if they inspired you, shop their links, support them. They're working hard. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I will actually see you tomorrow for another video. Bye.